Woodworking difficulty is commonly described as a skill gap. Projects fail because the person is assumed to lack talent, patience, or technical ability. In practice, many breakdowns occur in places that are not skill-dependent. A woodworking project is a chain of inputs and conditions that must align. Design clarity, measurement accuracy, material selection, tool access, work holding, workspace stability, sequencing, and time availability all act as constraints. When any one constraint is unstable, the project becomes fragile. The build does not fail because ability is absent. It fails because the system cannot hold continuity. This is why the same problems recur across different skill levels. A person can improve technique while still repeatedly encountering the same friction. Unclear plans, missing dimensions, tool limitations, inconsistent material, interruptions, storage problems, and incomplete setups. Each issue is an environmental or structural failure, not a talent failure. The work depends on a stable chain, and most home contexts do not provide that stability by default. In this framing, woodworking is not primarily a performance task. It is a coordination task. The central condition is fragmentation. The inputs are distributed across sources. The process is interrupted by routine, and the workspace is rarely designed for continuity. Most responses begin by increasing effort. More practice is added. More research is done. More time is allocated to watching demonstrations and collecting ideas. Tools are purchased incrementally. Materials are bought in advance. Workspaces are reorganized. Projects are restarted with simpler designs, then attempted again with more ambitious ones. Another common response is to lean on improvisation. When dimensions are unclear or steps are missing, decisions are made in the moment. Measurements are inferred. Joints are substituted. Hardware is adjusted to fit what is available. The build becomes a sequence of on-the-fly corrections intended to keep momentum moving. Some attempts focus on discipline and routine. Work is scheduled in short sessions. Parts are labeled and stored between sessions. Notes are taken to preserve context. Progress is tracked to avoid repeating setup work. Each of these approaches increases attention and management overhead. The project becomes a second system layered on top of everyday life: planning, sourcing, staging, remembering, and resuming. Effort-heavy approaches degrade because the woodworking system must be maintained continuously, while most environments treat it as intermittent. The work requires persistent alignment of tools, materials, measurements, and context. Home routines introduce gaps. Time is fragmented. Spaces are shared. Tools must be put away, and projects pause mid-process. As pauses accumulate, context decays. Measurements and intent that were obvious in one session become ambiguous in the next. Small uncertainties convert into decision points. Decision points accumulate into delays. Delays increase the amount of setup required to resume. The system becomes heavier over time, even when the work itself is not technically difficult. Scale mismatch also appears. Many hobby projects assume stable work surfaces, repeatable setups, consistent material dimensions, and uninterrupted sequences. When those assumptions do not hold, the process expands. Extra steps appear that were not part of the original build. Resquaring, remeasuring, recutting, replacing warped stock, adapting joinery, rebuilding jigs, compensating for missing clamps, and reconfiguring limited space. These steps are not failures of skill. They are structural compensation for a system that is not designed for the task. In that condition, improvement in technique does not reliably reduce friction, because the friction is generated upstream by unstable inputs and discontinuous workflow. Alongside effort-based approaches, there are response formats that are designed around reduced interaction. These formats are built to persist without requiring continuous decision-making, continuous searching, or continuous reassembly of context. They are organized as repeatable structures rather than isolated pieces of inspiration. In this category, The key attribute is not instruction quality in a general sense. The attribute is continuity. Information is presented in a way that stays available across sessions, and projects are encoded as consistent units with stable inputs, fixed steps, and standardized referencing. The format is intended to exist within interruption-prone environments without requiring constant reconstruction of missing context. These formats do not replace tools, space, or time. They alter how the work is staged and how decisions are distributed across the process. One example of a low-interaction format in woodworking is TED's Woodworking, delivered as a digital collection of project plans accessed through an online member area with optional physical media. The material is typically used by selecting a project plan, viewing it on a computer or mobile device, and referencing it during work sessions as a fixed set of steps and drawings. This type of format is not universal. Some projects require design work that cannot be standardized. Some builders prefer improvisation and do not work from fixed plans. Some environments make any sustained build difficult, regardless of format. Within those limits, the distinction remains structural. When woodworking is treated as primarily talent-based, recurring failures are interpreted as personal inadequacy. When it is treated as a system, recurring failures can be understood as predictable outcomes of fragmented inputs and discontinuous conditions. Different formats exist within that landscape as different ways of structuring the same process.